We cannot let this stuff sit unfinished. They're too valuable. They're too cool. You just got to remember why you bought these things in the first place. Here's how I stay motivated when I'm in the middle of a big restoration project. My name's Austin. This is the Mopar Garage, and we build cool stuff in here. Having a lazy Sunday, guys. Kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for parts on our Shelby project. The 99 stick shift short bed Dodge budget restoration is complete. So we're done with that project. This one, I really wanted to work on it today, but I'm still waiting on a few parts that we need for this guy. We've got the head off it. We're doing a head gasket, and then we're gonna slowly start getting everything back together, turbo rebuilt, all that good stuff. But sitting here on a lazy Sunday, and I really wanna be working on my cars right now. And I think about times that my motivation slips, and I kind of want to go through what I have learned in staying motivated on these projects. And you guys, I want you to all reach out in the comments below and throw some tips out on how you stay motivated, because I hate to see this stuff sit. Once it sits for a few months, it's like, man, you just got to get back remotivated. You cannot let this stuff sit for too long. Then you forget why you bought it in the first place. So moving on to some things that I'll do to stay motivated. What I'm doing right now is one of the things that I do to stay motivated. I will come down, I will sit in the car, I will think about the fact that, geez, I was able to find this thing. This car's got such a cool story. This is a Dodge Daytona Shelby that I bought in Daytona, Florida, right next to the track from the original owner, right next to the track that it was named after. So just such a cool story. You never see these things. You never see them on the road. I've seen a few in junkyards. I don't know that I've ever seen one driving down the road in the past at least 10 years. They're so cool. And it's easy when something is apart to let it sit and kind of forget why you work on it. Sit in the thing, smell it, smell that 80s leather. I mean, look at all these super awesome, quirky things, you know, the grid, the 80s grid and the gauges, you know, T-tops. That's not a thing anymore. Some of the cool little badging, like how it says Daytona by Dodge right there. All the shapes of the interior, the super 80s cool stuff. I'm a big 80s guy. If you're a 70s guy, then you pick out the cool traits that a 70 vehicle has. Cool little thing, like this is a lap timer. So in case you wanted to run laps, this car, it's considered like a sports car of the era, you know, a pony car of the era. It's got this super retro boost gauge. It's got this little onboard computer that tells you, you know, if you're low on fuel, if doors are open, that kind of stuff. This was so ahead of its time. A lapsed time chronometer, literally a lap time counter. So cool. Original stereo, you know, all your old school controls. Just get in the thing, feel it. Look at the shape of the steering wheel, how unique that is. You know, this stuff, it's so cool. And most importantly, one of the coolest things, these cars came from a time when if you had a sports car, it had one of these in it, and it was a stick shift. So sit in the thing, live with it for 10, 15 minutes every weekend or once a month or however often you need to do it. Sit in the thing and just imagine what it's going to be like when you first roll that thing out of the garage, when you first get it to a Cars and Coffee event, which I can't wait to do with this thing. This thing is so retro and quirky and unique. I can't wait for the kinds of conversations people are going to have at Cars and Coffee events. That's like one of my #1 reasons for staying motivated on this car. I can't wait to do that on the weekends. Another thing I like to do is if I'm waiting for parts or if I'm in a holding pattern for some reason, waiting on a tool, something like that, I'll just come out and spend 20 minutes with the car on the outside of it, right? So I'll sit in it for 5-10 minutes and then get out of the car and I'll look around it, get to know it, you know, learn stuff. Chase vacuum lines. Where do these vacuum lines go? Get underneath of it. What side of the fuel line's on? You know, get to know the car, some simple stuff that you'll find, you know, chase wires. What does this relay do? Measure the cylinder bores, check conditions of rubber hoses. I mean, just kind of get to know the thing. I actually learned today, I've had this car for almost a year, didn't realize that my heater core was plugged off, so I don't have any heat. Didn't realize that until today. I was just standing around looking at the car. So that's another thing I like to do. I think another reason that people will stop working on projects is they run into an issue or a project on the car that is above their current skill level, right? And they'll just put it off, and then eventually give up on the project and sell it for 1/10 of the money that they have into it. You can't let that happen, man. Don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be too proud. You know, I think a pretty competent mechanic, but when it came to time to rewire the fuel rail on that thing and redo all the plugs and source all the old plugs and all that, I wanted it done really, really well. So I actually went and partnered with a shop called Phoenix Automotive. That's all they do is restorations. We kind of redid the fuel rail together. I did a little bit for them, gave it to them to do a little bit. I wasn't too proud to be like, you know, I don't really want to cobble this thing together, you know? Right now, I'm dropping the K-frame off of the car, and it was welded on. I don't really know why. We're about halfway through getting that off. I'm waiting on another tool that I've ordered to finish the backside of it. But when I go to put that back on, maybe I have to weld it back on. Well, I don't even own a welder. So man, either go out and buy a welder, and I do know how to weld, but either go out and buy a welder, or don't be afraid to hire somebody. Spend a little bit of money. I mean, yeah, you like the pride of, like this, for example, this second gen, the gas truck, no one has touched this thing with the exception of an alignment. I've done and a headliner. I paid to have the headliner done. I paid to have the alignment done. But other than that, I completely rebuilt this truck with my own hands. And I realize that there's a pride in that. But at some point, it's like, if it's holding you up from getting the project done, pay somebody to do a little bit. Just so that you can get to the stuff you want to do or you're capable of doing. So I think that's another big thing. And I think lastly, sometimes you just plain get overwhelmed. And you get the thing all apart and you say, dude, there is so much man hours coming up to put this thing back together, or woman hours. Hopefully there's women out there working on their projects too. And what I say to that is, do a little bit each day, do a little bit every week. Every Saturday, spend 10 or 15 minutes on it. Get a little bit done every single day or every single week, or try to get on a regular basis of, if you only can do it once a month, do it every month. Get on the car. I don't care if you work on it for 15 minutes. I don't care if you accomplish one little task. Continue working on it. Don't let the thing sit. It's just like anything else. People who go to the gym a lot, if they take a week off from going to the gym, they never go back to the gym again sometimes. So you just, speaking of projects, dude just drove by on a motorized bicycle. That's awesome. The point is, work on the thing. Do something on it, right? Those are my 3 or 4 biggest pieces of advice on keeping you guys motivated on projects. I've been guilty of it myself. I took 3 months off from working on the Shelby because I ran into the subframe being welded on, and I really didn't want to deal with the complications that were gonna come from me cutting the subframe off. But you know what? You just gotta do it. Work on the thing. I avoided the Shelby for a while. Luckily, I had other projects to work on still, so I felt like I was at least doing something, right? And that's the biggest advice I have. I'm sure you guys have better advice or different advice. Throw it down in the comments below. I love the interaction. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. I won't drag this on like a bunch of other, never want to be one of them YouTubers that just drags something on. So appreciate you watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're into cool and quirky Mopar builds. We'll see you on the next one.